Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome to our Srimad Bhagavatam session today. Panchakalpa tarubhyascha kripa siddhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. So we'll begin by dedicating this presentation to our founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा गदामायं ददाति स्वापदन्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरुः श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं हरिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणः ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितं हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोस्तुते। जयतं शरतो पङ्गो मम मन्दामतीर्गति मत्सर्वस्व पादम्बोजो राधा मदनमोहनो दिव्याद्वृन्दारण्यो कल्पद्रुमदः श्रीमद्रत्नागदो सिंहासनोऽस्तु श्रीमन् राधा श्रीलगोविन्ददेवो भ्रष्टालिभिः सेव्यमानो स्मरामि श्रीमन् रासारसारम्भी वंशिवातास्ततः स्थितः कर्षन् वेणुर्सनैर्गोपीनाथः श्रियस्तु नः। आप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गे राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। नमः ओम विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी निति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। हम नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयं मुदीरये। धर्म प्रोजितो कैतवो अत्र परमो निर्मत्सराणां सतां वेद्यं वस्तुमत्र वस्तु शिवदं तापत्रयोन्मूलनम्। This Bhagavata Purana is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart. The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion. For the welfare of all such truth uproots the threefold miseries. Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite Kim Vaparerishvaraha Sadhye Hridi Avarudyate Atra Kritibihi Sushrushubhistakshanat. This beautiful Bhagavatam, compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in his maturity, is sufficient in itself for God realization. What is the need of any other scripture? As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam, by this culture of knowledge, the Supreme Lord is established within his heart. Nikamakalatarorgalitam phalam sukamukaram tathapātagatam sukamukhakamritadrabhyasamritam pipata bhagavadam rasamalayam muguraho rasika puripāvaka. अष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भागवते उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। इदं भागवतं नाम पुराणं ब्रह्म संहितं Uttamasloka chakara bhagavan rishihi nishreyasaya lokasya dhanyam swastyayanam mahat. This Srimad Bhagavatam is the literary incarnation of God, and it is compiled by Srila Vyasadeva, the incarnation of God. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people, and it is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect. Tvai me ananda vishaya matir madhupati asakrit ratim udvahatat ada kange bhagam udandatihi. O Lord of sweetness, Madhupate, as the Ganga forever flows to the sea without hindrance, let my attraction be constantly drawn unto you alone, without being diverted to anyone else. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vigna Vinashana Narasimhaite Namini Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langaitim Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Vande Sri Guru Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanyam Ishwaram Om Tat Sat. So Hare Krishna everyone, welcome again to our Srimad Bhagavatam's second canto, chapter 4, the process of creation. So we are doing the second part for this chapter. So a bit of recap of what we have covered previously. So in Canto 2, we have covered chapters 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we have already discussed several times about the contents of these chapters in our previous sessions. So to put it very short, in a very succinct manner, Sukadev Goswami is telling Parikshit Maharaj, is giving the answers to Parikshit Maharaj of his questions. His questions were, what should one do? What should one chant? What should one remember? What should one worship at the time of death? And this is befitting for every one of us in this world. So then Parikshit Maharaj begins by telling what one should not do and what should one do step by step. So he goes by the most basic step. First, he talks about how devotees, first he talks about how uh, jivas in this world can come out from the cycle of birth and death. But the way to do that is somehow or other, they have to connect with bhakti. So there are many, many paths. Hinduism is a wonderful, or actually, there's no such thing as Hinduism. You don't find the word Hindu in the scriptures. So it's because later on it was coined by the Muslims to because they used to call the people on the other side of the Sindhu River as Hindus because they couldn't pronounce the word Sindhu. So eventually it became Hindu. So we term ourselves as Sanatan Dharma, the followers of the Vedic wisdom, Sanatan Dharma. So Sanatan Dharma has many, many, many paths because it is a very matured system which understands that the people in this world, not everybody is of the same mind. There are people with different mindsets, different priorities, approaches. It's a lot, many of them. So therefore, to satisfy every one of them, to help them to gradually in various levels to come to the supreme truth, to the supreme absolute truth, there are many paths laid out. But all these paths can be broadly divided into two categories. The first category is the path of sense gratification, and the second category is the path of sense renunciation. So, of the two, the path of sense gratification is a very slow, gradual process, and it is risky. So, because one can easily fall down from it. But this path of sense renunciation, that path is a very blessed path. So, therefore, Sukadev Goswami congratulates Parikshit Maharaj for giving up everything and renouncing. But because he is aware that there are other people in this assembly who are not devotees, therefore he talks to Parikshit Maharaj from the beginning by saying how somehow or other all these paths will ultimately end with devotional service. To get that complete success in any spiritual path, it has to end with devotional service. So that's, and coming to the point of devotional service is also another beginning. So every spiritual path or activity there are in this creation must lead to devotional service. And from devotional service begins a whole new journey towards supreme purification. So anyway, so step by step, from meditation, one connects meditation with the supreme in the form of the supreme. So from the Virat Rupa meditation to Paramatma meditation to ultimately Bhagavan meditation, to understand that the supreme being, the ultimate truth, the supreme absolute truth, Param Satyam, is understood in three features. The first feature is Brahman feature, to understand that the supreme truth and ourselves are non-different, that we are all spirit matter. So that is the first level of understanding. And there's a supreme spirit, there is Brahman and there is Parabrahman, supreme spirit. But it is a very abstract understanding because there is no clear definition about what that Brahman is or what that Parabrahman is. So that's the first level of understanding, to at least come to the platform to understand that we are not this body and that we are spirit soul and everything is spirit soul. And there is a supreme spirit soul. Because in the Vedas, right, in the Krishna Yajur Veda, it is described uh, Nitya Nityanam Chetana Chetananas. Nitya Nityonam Chetana Chetananas. So amongst all eternals, there is one supreme eternal. Amongst all consciousness, there is one supreme consciousness. So this is to understand that there is a supreme person, and that supreme person is a being, is Bhagavan. And that is the conclusion of chapter 3. So Parikshit Maharaj accepts this wholeheartedly from Sukadev Goswami, and immediately he goes into meditation, into samadhi, and what he does in that full consciousness of the Lord. So he begins to ask more questions to Sukadev Goswami. So he wants to know more and more about. So this is the reality of real spiritual success. So spiritual success is not simply inertness, doing nothing, meditating over nothing. It is basically activity because the soul is active. So when the soul is active, right, it cannot be artificially made to be inactive. It is not the actual situation of the soul, right? Jivera swarupa hoy, Krishnera nityadas. Swarupa, the swarupa of the jiva, nitya swarupa, the eternal swarupa, the eternal original uh, occupation or dharma of the jiva is Krishnera nityadas, the eternal servant of the Lord. So there is always activity in that. So he begins these activities by hearing. The beginning of all spiritual activity, which is linked to devotional service begins with Shravanam Kirtanam. So to hear, one must put forth questions in a nice way. So Parikshit Maharaj puts forth these kind of questions to Sukadev Goswami. So then we come to chapter 4. So chapter 4, we heard about how Sukadev Goswami is, Parikshit Maharaj is not satisfied. He wants to hear more and more. He already accepted in his mind that Krishna is that person that he needs to remember, he needs to meditate upon. But you know, what his situation is extremely, extremely fortunate because he has the association of a Maha Bhagavat devotee, a Mahajan, Sukadev Goswami, who is none other coming from the spiritual world himself. So to take full advantage of such a great personality, of such great association, rather than to just meditate alone, Sukadev Goswami, Parikshit Maharaj puts forth questions to Sukadev Goswami in such a way that Sukadev Goswami would want to speak more and more about Krishna. So that is the perfection of spiritual life. Krishna Katha Ruchi, to hear, to, to relish the taste of Krishna Katha. So the perfection of Parikshit Maharaj renunciation, we heard about that in chapter 4. The process of creation is It's titled The Process of Creation. So it begins with the text describing how Parikshit Maharaj went into perfect renunciation. He gave up everything. He gave up his kingdom. We heard about this previously, how he gave up his kingdom, his family, his wife, his children, his power, his prestige, his chariots, his animals, his kingdom, his wealth. And this is not just anything, it's the best in the universe. So, and he was able to give all of that up. And the text also explains how he was able to give them all up. So, as a result of wholehearted attraction for Krishna. So, just by the brief association with Sukadev Goswami, Parikshit Maharaj had developed full, wholehearted attraction for Krishna. Of course, we know Parikshit Maharaj was always having this attraction for Krishna before even he was born, because he's Vishnu Ratha, one who is saved by Vishnu himself. In the womb, he was protected from a Brahmastra, and he saw the Lord at that time, and his attraction developed from there. And throughout his life, he was searching and searching for that supreme personality. So, and the Lord purposely withheld himself so that it will increase more and more his attachment and his hankering for the Lord. So this is what the Lord does. I heard about this. It was in the 10th canto. There is one pastime in the 10th canto when during the Rasa Leela dance, the Lord disappears from everybody's sight. So, and then it's a long story, but the point is later on, after uh, many things happening, in the end, the gopis, they all cornered Krishna and they asked Krishna, "Oh Krishna, why do you disappear from us? You know how much we want to serve you. You know how much our hearts are given away to you. So why do you keep yourself away?" So then Krishna, it's a very beautiful conversation. I'm not doing sufficient justice in explaining it, but the gist of it is Krishna tells that, I when somebody takes up my devotional service, I purposely do not reciprocate immediately. He says, I do this purposely because I want to increase the hankering of that devotee of mine. Because that's one reason. Actually, there are two reasons. One reason is the more I keep myself away, the more the hankering of the devotee increases, and the glory of the devotee is also shown throughout the world. You can see this in many situations where, like in Ramayana, there are many devotees who waited for many years. That's the example of that lady in the forest. What's her name? Um, Shabari. The Shabari waited for ever since she was young. She went to the forest, and she waited throughout her life. When she was young, she went to the forest even before she was 20 years old, and she waited until she was a very old lady, and only then Lord Ramachandra came to her. So, but she never lost faith. So she was always enthusiastic. She was always determined in her devotional service, and she was very patient. So that's why Rupa Goswami describes in the Nectar of Instruction, we must have nischayat, dhairyat, utsahan, nischayat, and dhairyat. Utsahan means enthusiasm. Nischayat means determination and endeavor, and dhairyat means patience. So, and this is the quality of a pure devotee, right? And Krishna capitulates on that. He uses this. He uses this for actually, he mentions two reasons, but I'm thinking it's also the third reason. So, one reason is because Krishna wants to uh, sweeten the relationship. The more he stays away, the more he does not reciprocate, the more it increases the hankering for the devotee, for the Lord. That's one reason. But at the same time, it is also to glorify the devotee, to show how wonderful this devotee is, so steadfast, so determined, so patient, so faithful, despite so many tribulations, right? And the second reason Krishna tells the gopis is because I want to keep them humble. Because that's what happened with the gopis also. As soon as he appeared, each of the gopi was thinking, that Lord Krishna was dancing only with herself. So a little bit of transcendental pride, you could say, crept into their hearts. So then Lord Krishna, when he detected this pride entering into the hearts of the gopis, he immediately disappeared. So that's what he does. So therefore, because if Krishna directly reciprocates with us in our impure state sometimes, we will immediately become very proud. We will say, "Oh, I dreamt of Krishna. He came into my dream and he personally lifted me up and he personally embraced me." Oh, if we all had this kind of dreams, then you know what we will be thinking? We will think, "Oh, we must be very special people. Krishna directly, I'm special." So we will start thinking in this way. And the moment we think this way, we are fallen. That's it. Because two things Krishna cannot stand. Actually, three things, right? Three things Krishna cannot stand in people. One thing is he cannot stand pride, right? Pride. Anyone who has even a little bit of pride, Krishna wants to immediately teach them a lesson. So that's one thing, right? And another thing Krishna cannot stand is ungratefulness. So he wants to always see that the jivas are always grateful. That's why the Vedic scriptures are made in such a way that we are expected to be grateful to our forefathers, to our teachers, to our gurus, to our elders, for all the different things which tangible or intangible, which is, we are benefiting from them. So gratitude is very, very important. And the third thing that Krishna cannot stand is envy. The moment that we invite envy into our hearts, the moment we start thinking ill for another person, right? Some due to envy, we start thinking ill for another person. So then that is a very bad thing. So anyway, so that's the point I was trying to say why Krishna uh, Krishna doesn't immediately reciprocate to his devotees. But to keep us enthused along the way, there are little bits of shadow reciprocations which Krishna gives. If we are purified enough to see it, so that's why we have to take up this process of devotional service and get purified. The more we are purified in our hearts by chanting the holy names and hearing, the more the noise in our consciousness, the noise in our heart, because in our heart we have so many desires, material desires, which are all very noisy. But at the same time, there's also Paramatma in our heart, who is our conscience. So sometimes our conscience gets eclipsed by our material desires and our karma, krodha, lobha, all this greed. So the more it is cleansed, the more our heart is cleansed, the more the conscience in our heart, which is the voice of Paramatma nudging us, becomes more and more clear. So anyway, I was just talking about the attraction, why Krishna does this. So coming back to Parikshit Maharaj. So Parikshit Maharaj is showing the perfection of renunciation. So, and perfection of renunciation, he managed to achieve this because he developed this wholehearted attraction for Krishna. So because Krishna disappeared from his vision, throughout his life, he saw Krishna, he fell in love with Krishna. He was already a very great personality before birth itself. And the moment he saw Krishna, his hankering for Krishna grew and grew and grew. Throughout his life, it grew until finally he had this wonderful opportunity to come face to face with the Maha Bhagavat like Sukadev Goswami. And with this attraction in his heart, the perfection of his renunciation is that simply attaching himself to the lotus feet of Krishna, he could easily overcome the attachments for anything else. He is able to give up every other attachments. And the ultimate perfection is he wanted to hear more. So he asked Sukadev Goswami to speak more about it. So all this was narrated by all this incident that's taking place between Sukadev and Parikshit is narrated by Saunaka Rishi, Sutta Goswami to Saunaka Rishi in the Naimisharanya forest. So remember, there are two conversations here. So complete detachment to things related to the body. So that was what Parikshit Maharaj. So we heard that from verses 1 to 4. And then we also heard about the exemplary way in which Parikshit Maharaj put forth questions to Sukadev Goswami. So, it is described in the Bhagavad Gita. What does Krishna tell us to do? 434, chapter 4, verse 34. Tat, but, Tadvidi pranipatena pariprasnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattva darshinaha. So Krishna is telling Arjuna, right? First of all, you must approach a guru, one who is tattva darshi. Tattva darshi means who knows the truth, who has experienced the truth. So approach that person, and what we must do to that person? Tadvidi Tadvidi pranipatena, you must serve that person. Pariprasnena sevaya. So very humbly you must serve, and you must put forth questions to that person. So that's why we are seeing the exemplary way in which Parikshit Maharaj putting forth questions to Sukadev Goswami. So we were hearing this in our previous session, right? So perfect hearing brings enlightenment. So how do we know that our hearing is working? So as I told you before in different sessions, it is always two things, two factors. The hearer must be qualified and the speaker must also be qualified. So when both of them are qualified and there is enthusiasm and there is eagerness within that assembly, then that hearing becomes extremely powerful. So how do we know it becomes extremely powerful? It dispels darkness of ignorance and brings and shines forth the lamp of enlightenment in our heart. In other words, we find few things will happen in our heart. We find that as we hear more and more, our ignorance becomes dissipated. We start knowing more and more information. Our ignorance is dissipated, enlightenment comes, and our heart becomes peaceful. And in Srimad Bhagavatam, it also says that how all our material miseries are removed so long as we are hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. So Bahiranga, then Antaranga. So then we also heard previously how Parikshit Maharaj, when he's putting forth questions, he wants to know more about Krishna. But what kind of questions does he ask? Does he say, first tell me straight away, Sukadev Goswami, about what kind of relationship Krishna has with Radharani? He didn't ask like that. So he asked instead about creation. So, and there's a lengthy purport over there with Prabhupada talks about why this is so. So Prabhupada mentions that before we want to hear about the Antaranga Shakti of the Lord, Antaranga Shakti means the internal potency, the internal energy, which is represented by Radharani. So the intimate relationships and the Yoga Maya, whatever that's happening in spiritual world, the intimate pastimes, before we are qualified to hear about the intimate internal energy of the Lord, we must first of all hear the external energy of the Lord, the Bahiranga Shakti. Bahir means external. So Bahiranga Shakti, so only then we will get the blessings of Durga Devi. Otherwise, we cannot cross over Durga Devi, right? So, and it is connected to the Lord also. So therefore, we mustn't be too eager to hear about the intimate pastimes of Lord Krishna until we completely hear about the pastimes of the Lord in the material world, in the material creation. So we have to fully understand his nature, his guna, his qualities, and his rupa and his shaktis, how they work within the material creation. Why? Because then only we will understand how great the Supreme Personality of Godhead is. Because until we know how great he is, when we hear his internal pastimes, we will commit offenses in our heart. We will start thinking, oh, why is Krishna acting in this way? This is not nice. Or why is he doing that? Or why did he do this? So this kind of demonic doubts will creep into our hearts, and it will do a lot more damage than benefit. So that's why it's important for us in our neophyte stage, right? At least we while we are still in the three modes of nature, we have to understand this properly by hearing about the interaction of the Lord with the material energy. So we are going to hear this today in more detail. So we stopped at verse 6, and this is the last verse which we covered in our previous session. So it goes. So this is Parikshit Parikshit Maharaj. Yeah, Parikshit Maharaj asking the questions. He's still continuing to ask the questions to Sukadev Goswami. So he tells, I beg to know from you how Bhagavan by his Atma Maya means his internal, his energies, his own energies. I want to know how Bhagavan by his own energies creates these phenomenal universes as they are, which are inconceivable even to the great demigods or the great devatas, Adi Ishwaras, the original, the great devatas. Even for them, the pastime of creation the Lord exhibits is inconceivable. So it is very, very amazing. So this is where we stopped. I did not have a chance to speak about Prabhupada's purport. So today we will continue with Prabhupada's purports on this. So this is what I'm saying. Parikshit Maharaj did not ask his spiritual master, Sukadev Goswami, to narrate Lord Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan. He wanted to hear first about the creation of the Lord. So this is very significant. So Parikshit Maharaj, who is such a great personality, so he is setting the example. The Lord uses these people, these devotees, to set examples for us. So we shouldn't be jumping along. So there is a way to go in spiritual life, a step-by-step scientific process. If we take shortcuts in the scientific process, then we will not get the intended result. So we have to carefully follow step by step. So therefore, he says Sukadev Goswami did not say that the king should hear about the direct transcendental pastimes of the Lord. Now, this is very amazing because Parikshit Maharaj was going to die. 7 more days only to die. And then you might think that, oh, let me go straight to the point. Why must I read first canto, second canto, third canto, fourth canto, fifth canto? Let me go straight to the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. I got only 7 more days to live. Right? They could have said like that. But even in such a situation, you see, Parikshit Maharaj did not ask like that, and Sukadev Goswami also did not reply like that. So that he did not say time was very short, right? So naturally go to the transcendental direct pastimes of the Lord with his internal energy. So the time was very short, and naturally Sukadev Goswami could have gone directly to the 10th canto to make a shortcut of the whole thing, as generally done by the professional readers. So sometimes this is what happens when we have people, in order to get name, fame, glory, in order to attract a following, in order to, uh, to become famous, or to say people, oh, he gives very nice katha. And, sometimes we hear for the sake of mental entertainment. So that is not the reason why we hear scripture. Our hearing process should not be in the realm of mental entertainment. Some we get like watching TV, or we get joy, we get entertained, right? So serious spiritual hearing has to be in a serious way. That's why Prabhupada, if you see Prabhupada's lectures, Prabhupada's talks, Prabhupada's words, they are basically very serious, and they talk about the basic understanding. They don't jump into, oh, Krishna went and touched Radha in this way, and Radha went and did this to Krishna. So yeah, we can hear a little bit of that, right? But our focus, because we are still conditioned by the material nature, we are not able to fully relish in the correct way these transcendental pastimes of the Lord, until and unless we have completely understood his material pastimes. So that's why we have to go step by step. Okay. So, but neither the king nor the great speaker of Srimad Bhagavatam jumped up like the organizers of Srimad Bhagavatam. Both of them proceeded systematically so that both future readers and hearers might take lessons from the example of the procedure of reading Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is very important. Sometimes we get new devotees who come in and then they will start speaking about, oh, okay, enough about all this boring stuff. Come, tell me about the spicy gossip pastimes about the Lord and what he did. So that's the thing. So one should be very careful about hearing the intimate pastimes, because very easily we can, because of our material conditioning in our mind, our minds are conditioned in so many ways. We think we are the body, we think we are the this some people will think, oh, I'm a lady, I'm a female, or I'm a male. So this kind of gender mentality conditioning, or I'm Indian, or I'm not Indian. So this kind of conditioning, it 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 forms the way our thinking goes. So if we apply that same lens, if we hear Srimad Bhagavatam with the same lens of our material conditioning, and we hear the intimate pastimes of the Lord, definitely it will be distorted. What will enter into our understanding is a complete distortion, and it will do a lot more harm than good. So that's why we have to go step by step. Very, very important. So otherwise, we will be lost. So Prabhupada continues, those who are under the control of the external energy of the Lord, or in other words, those who are in the material world, that means we are still not liberated yet. We are still in the material world. We are still conditioned by the three modes of nature. So people like us must first of all know how the external energy of the Lord is working under the direction of the Supreme Personality. So the external energy of the Lord is Durga, Durga Shakti. So we must understand how Durga Shakti is working under the direction of the Supreme Personality. So, and afterwards, one may try to enter into the activities of his internal energy. So, in this way, we will get the blessings of Durga Devi. Otherwise, Maya will block us. We cannot understand. She will bewilder us, and we will become offenders to the lotus feet of Lord Krishna and to Radharani. So, sometimes a lot of people, they take Radharani's names very cheaply. Immediately they think they are in the transcendental level, and they start singing Radhe, Radhe, as if they are so intimate with Radharani. Radha is the intimate friend of Krishna. So, and imagine if somebody else calls, let's say we have boyfriend, or okay, let's say we have a girlfriend, right? So if somebody else is calling our girlfriend's name, how we will feel? Or somebody calls your wife's name, chanting your wife's name, how they will feel? Unless that person is intimately related to you. So therefore, one has to be very careful. So even when Prabhupada, when he went to Vrindavan, when people started saying to him, Radhe, Radhe, because the Brajabasis, they are different, they are transcendental people. So, but they can say, but when they tell Prabhupada, Radhe, Radhe, Prabhupada will reply back to them, Hare Krishna. So one has to be very careful in uttering the name of Radharani. In fact, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj was very, very careful about this. He will never lecture so much in public. Only to intimate devotees he will talk about Radharani. And Prabhupada hardly spoke about Radharani. Even in Srimad Bhagavatam, you do not find the name of Radharani at all, because Sukadev Goswami is overwhelmed whenever she speaks Radharani's name. So therefore, because 7 days only, there's no time for ecstatic dancing and bliss and going into faint and ecstasy. So therefore, he purposely, for the benefit of Parikshit Maharaj, refrained from mentioning Radharani's name. Although he refers to her in the 10th canto, but he does not mention her name. So from this, we can understand Radharani's name is very, very sacred and has to be very carefully pronounced with utmost reverence. Not simply as a, Radhe is to sometimes jokingly they just say, or to get an attraction or to build a concert vibe. So all this is very incorrect. Okay, so Prabhupada continues, Durga Shakti is working by the direction of Govinda, right? There's a nice verse in the Brahma Samhita where Lord Brahma says the same thing. Shristi Sthiti Pralaya Sadhana Shakti Reka Chayeva Yasya Bhuvanani Vibharti Durga Ichchanaroopamapi yasya chatestatisha Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. The material energy, Durga Devi, is like a shadow of the Hladini Shakti of the Lord. And it is moving exactly as per the order of the Lord. So that is described in the Brahma Samhita, spoken by Lord Brahma. Same thing over here. So Durga Shakti is working by the direction of Govinda, and without his sanction, the powerful Durga Shakti cannot move even a blade of grass. Therefore, the neophyte devotee, instead of jumping at once to the platform of transcendental pastimes presented by the internal energy of the Lord, which is Radharani or Hladini Shakti, one may know how great the Supreme Lord is first by inquiring about the process of his creative energy. So this is very important for us to understand. So the author of Chaitanya Charitamrita too has warned the neophyte devotees to be seriously on guard against the pitfall of neglecting knowledge about Krishna in regard to how great he is. Only when one knows Lord Krishna's greatness can one firmly put one's unflinching faith in him so that he does not become bewildered by Krishna's activities. You know, there are some people who will say, I will never accept Krishna, because they will at first they will accept that, okay, Ram and Krishna and Vishnu are all the same, but they won't accept Krishna. If they won't pray to Krishna, they will say, okay, I will pray to Ram, but I won't pray to Krishna. Why? Because Krishna behaved in an immoral way. So for them, they cannot accept that. That's because they don't understand the position of Krishna, and they are seeing Krishna with their own material limited vision. They cannot understand his activities. That's because they don't know how great God is. God is so great that he can break every law that he creates, right? He can, and even if he breaks his own laws, he is not at fault. You cannot put him in any way. And there was in this regard, there were some pastimes with Srila Prabhupada. Apparently in the West, in Europe, there was one pastor. There was a conversation with in no how it went. There are two incidences. One incident is there was a court case. Actually, some of the Catholic Church, the priests, they were very upset. Some people were becoming devotees. So what they did, they brought the devotees to court, and the charge of the court is that they are spreading a fraudulent religion, not a bona fide religion. They are creating some concoction which is not healthy. So why it is not a it's not healthy? Why the religion is not healthy? Their argument is because they are they are propagating illicit activity. They are coming and saying they are worshipping a god who is an adulterer, according to them. They said that Krishna married so many ladies, so and he's having so many relationships, and this is the god that you are all are worshipping. So this is not appropriate. This is not morally correct. So therefore, this religion should be banned. So then they brought the devotees to court, and one devotee, very smart devotee, he went and said, "Okay, I want to ask. I want to put the chief, the because the one of the prosecuting people, it's a nun. It's a nun, and she was the head of a nunnery. And then they asked this nun in court, right? Can you please tell me what is the vow that you took when you became a nun? Every person who becomes a nun, they take up a vow, you know. And then the nun said, "Oh, that vow is a very sacred vow. We cannot tell." No, no, you must tell. And then in this way, the court also said, "Okay, no, you must tell the vow. What is that? What is it that you have? What is the vow that you take?" And then they said, "Oh, the vow that I took is..." Actually, she didn't want to say, but then the devotee spoke it out. He showed the verses from the scripture to say that the vow they took is each and every nun who joins the nunnery is actually taking the vow that she is getting married to the Supreme Lord, that she is getting married to God. So that is the vow that she takes. So then the devotees looked at the judge and said, now who is the adulterer? Your God or our God? So you have how many nuns are there in this country? So all these nuns are all married to your God. So isn't that isn't that a very terrible adultery? So then the entire case collapsed. So then they gave up the case and the devotees were free to continue their chanting. So and then there was another pastime with Prabhupada. So Prabhupada and a Christian pastor were having a discussion, and the Christian pastor raised the same point. He said, your God is adulterating. He's married so many people. It's so immoral, right? And then Prabhupada looked at him and said, are you married? And then this person, okay, this is not Catholic. I think this is a Protestant, because Catholic people, they don't get married. So this is a Protestant, and he was married. So he says, yes, I'm married. And then Prabhupada asked him, how many wives do you have? And then he said, oh, I have one wife. We only marry one. And then said, then you have adulterated one time. And they say, how you can say like that? I've only married one time. And then Prabhupada said, that's because all ladies belong to Krishna. And all ladies belong to God. Do you agree? Everything belongs to God. So if everything belongs to God, all ladies belong to God. And you have taken the property of God. And you are the adulterer, not God. So in this way, he was defeated again. So like that. So we must be able to have firm faith that everything that Krishna does is absolutely correct and absolutely perfect. There is no fault in anything Krishna does. So if we have any doubts, that means our understanding is not complete. So we have to clear all these doubts and have a rock hard faith before we enter into the internal pastimes of the Lord. Otherwise, we will become bewildered. So this is the warning given by the authors of both Srimad Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita. So now Parikshit Maharaj is now asking further to Sukadev Goswami. Verse 7, kindly describe how the Puru Shakti Parapuman, Puru Shakti, Puru means ultimate, all-powerful, Shakti, Shakti. This is it's not Shakti, it's Shakti. That means the owner, the possessor of the Puru Shakti. So that person is none other than Para, the supreme Puman person. So the supreme person who is the owner of the all-powerful Shaktis, kindly describe how that person who is also Vibhu. Vibhu means all great and all expanding, unlimited, who is also, the opposite of Vibhu is Anu, extremely small. So Vibhu means all expanding, everywhere. He is great, right? So can you please tell me how this great personality, the possessor of all great Shaktis, how he engages his different Shaktis and different expansions in maintaining and again winding up the phenomenal world in the sporting spirit of a player. So, very nice question. So he's asking, please tell me in full, right, about the different aspects of the Lord's Shaktis in regards to this material creation. So he wants to know that first, the material creation. Because we are in the material creation, we need to know how wonderfully it is working all by the inconceivable power of the Lord. So in this way, because he is playing within the material world and the energies which represent Durga Devi, right? So are expertly used by the Lord to achieve his desires. So in this way, we will also get the blessings of Durga Devi. So there is as I mentioned before, in the Katha Upanishad of the Krishna Yajurveda, it is said, Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam Eko Bakunam. Eko, one person, right? Amongst all the eternals, there is one supreme eternal. Among all the conscious beings, there is one supreme consciousness. And that person is one, Eko. Eko Bahunam, that one person is supporting and maintaining everyone. So that Supreme Person is Puru Shakti Parapuman, who's none other than the Supreme Lord Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam, the original personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna. So how he is maintaining again and again, and also winding up, maintaining, creating, how he's creating, maintaining, and winding up the phenomenal world, the universe, the entire creation in the sporting spirit of a player. Player means like a drama act. So how it is happening again and again, coming, so many activities are happening, and it is disappearing. So this is a important aspect. So then what happens? He continues, Nunam Bhagavato Brahman Harir Adbhuta Karmanah Durvibhavyam Iva Bhati Kavibischapi Chestitam. O learned Brahmana, the transcendental activities of Bhagavata Hari are all Adbhuta. So Parikshit Maharaj is continuing the address to Sukadev Goswami. Just see how he is talking to Sukadev Goswami with utmost respect and with humility, right? So he's asking, O learned Brahmana, O Sukadev Goswami, the transcendental activities of Bhagavata Hare, that Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, are all wonderful, Adbhuta, amazing. The word Adbhuta means amazing or wonderful, right? And they appear inconceivable. So it's difficult to imagine how these kind of powers are even happening, how such things are happening. So one example, right, is that verse we find in the Ishopanishad, the invocation mantra of the Ishopanishad. Om Purnam Mada Purnam Midam Purnat Purnam Udachyate Purnasya Purnam Adaya Purnam Eva Vashishyate. So that verse it says Om, Om, which represents the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is Purnam. Purnam means complete and perfect, right? And Ada Purnam Idam, and from that complete, perfect Supreme Personality, what is happening? Purnat Purnam Udachate. Many other complete sets are coming out from his body. So this is the Supreme Person, Om, the Supreme Lord. He is perfect and he is complete. And from him, many universes are emanating, which are all perfect and also complete. You know, every universe is complete by itself. There is nothing lacking in the universe. So everything is perfect and complete. And even though so many universes are coming out from that one personality, that personality is not diminished in any way. He remains the same, unchanged, complete, and full, even though so many things are continuously coming out of him. So that is the definition of God, right? And then we also have the Brahma Samhita, Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Ananta Rupam Adyam Purana Purusham Navayovanam Cha Vedeshu Durlabha Adurlabha Atma Bhakto Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Advaitam, he is Advaitam, he is one. He is one without second, right? Achyutam, he is infallible. Nothing can defeat him, right? Anadim, he is the oldest. He's original. He's the original of all origins. Anadim, Advaitam Achyutam, Advaitam Achyutam, Anadim, Ananta Rupam. He has unlimited forms. Adyam Purana Purusham. He's the oldest personality, the original personality. Adyam Purana Purusham, Nava Yauvanam Cha. And although he is oldest personality, he is the youngest. He looks young. Nava Yauvanam Cha. He always looks like a fresh, blooming youth, even though he's the oldest personality. So two contradictions here. Although so many complete things are coming out from this person, he is never diminished. That's a contradiction, right? And although he is the oldest, he is ever young, eternally young. So therefore, it is inconceivable how to understand, how to figure it out, because it's outside of our experience. We have never seen anything in our experience like this. So that's why it is called inconceivable. Achintyam. The Sanskrit word is achintyam. It's part of Krishna's Shakti. One of the Krishna's Shakti is Achintya Shakti. It is inconceivable, whatever the Lord does. One example of his inconceivability, which we can at least imagine in a material scale, there are many, many examples, but we can at least imagine one thing in a material scale, is this story given in the scriptures. We've all heard the story about the cobbler and the Brahmana, right? So the cobbler and the Brahmana, the cobbler, the Narada Muni visits the Brahmana and also the cobbler. So the Brahmana is a very learned Brahmana and he knows all the scriptures and everything. So when he saw Narada Muni, he gave respect to him and then he told Narada Muni, please welcome and everything. And after talking, he asked a question, oh Narada, tell me, uh, tell me, when will I go back to the Supreme Lord? When will I go back to Vaikuntha? And then Narada said, okay, next time next time when I see Narayana, I will ask him this question. And then he also went to see the cobbler, the simple, humble cobbler. He was a devotee, right? He was always chanting the holy names and doing his work. And then, but the devotee never asked this question. He never asked Brahmana, he never asked Narada when he is going to go back to Vaikuntha Loka. After talking so long, then Narada was surprised. Oh, cobbler, why don't you ask me this question? When aren't you eager to go back to see your Lord? And then the cobbler said, anything the Lord wants, whatever the Lord's desire is my desire. So that is his answer. So then Narada Muni went to see Narayana. And when he saw Lord Narayana smiled. And then long story short, he told Narada Muni, okay, I won't answer the question directly. Instead, I want you to go down. And when you go down, you will meet the Brahmana. The Brahmana will ask you, what is Lord Narayana doing? And when he asks you this question, right, you must tell him that I am threading an elephant through the eye of a needle. So, you know, a needle is a very small thing. And the eye of the needle is a very, very small hole. It's not easy for us to put a thread inside the needle also. And here, Lord Narayana, he's taking an elephant and putting that through the hole of the needle. So he told Narada Muni to go and tell that. And then before that, he also told Narada Muni, if the Brahmana asks when he will come back to Vaikuntha Loka, tell the Brahmana that he will come back only after 100 lifetimes. So after 100 lifetimes, then he will come back to him. And then he also said, but when you ask and you should also ask the same questions to the cobbler, because Narada Muni will ask Narayana, oh Narayana, he's a great Brahmana. How come only for after 100 lifetimes only he will come back to you? And then Narayana said, in order for you to get the answer to that question, you will get the answer when you ask the same question to the cobbler. And by hearing the cobbler's reply, you will understand why the cobbler will immediately come back to Vaikuntha. He will come back to me in this lifetime itself, whereas the Brahmana will only come back to me after 100 lifetimes. So then the Narada Muni went down to earth again, and then he went to see the Brahmana first. And then the Brahmana was very eager. The Brahmana said, oh, Narada Muni, you're back again. Please tell me, what did Lord Narayana say? When will I go back to Vaikuntha? And then Narada Muni said, oh, Lord Narayana said that you will go back to Vaikuntha after 100 lifetimes. And when the Brahmana heard this, he was extremely disappointed. And his disappointment became so bad that he started doubting Narada Muni. And then he asked Narada Muni, okay, is that what you said? I don't know whether you really saw him or not. You know, I find that so hard to believe. So I don't know whether you really saw Lord Narayana. Okay, to prove to me that you really met Lord Narayana, why don't you tell me what Lord Narayana was doing? So then Narada told, oh, Lord Narayana was threading an elephant through the eye of a needle. So as soon as the Brahmana heard this, he laughed, ha 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 ha. Now I know you are a mad person. You have not seen Narada, you have not seen Narayana, and what nonsense you're talking. How to go and thread an elephant in through a thread? What is it's nonsensical. You first of all, you cannot do it. Second of all, what's the point of it? So in this way, he thought, you are talking nonsense. I don't think you saw Narayana. Okay, never mind. You go. So then Narada Muni was thinking to himself. So okay, so this is the fate of the Brahmana. Then he went to the cobbler, and then he met the cobbler, and he told the cobbler, I met Narayana, and Narayana said, you will come back to him in this life itself. And then the cobbler was like, oh, if that is the wish of the Lord, I am so pleased. And then he said, and then the cobbler said, oh, can you please tell me what Lord Narayana was doing? You had the great fortune to meet him. Please tell me what he was doing. And then Narada Muni told, oh, Lord Narayana, he was taking an elephant and he was threading it into the eye of a needle. And when the cobbler heard this, he was like saying, oh, my great personality, my supreme Lord, he is so wonderful. He is so great. He is doing such amazing, inconceivable things. Oh, what a wonderful personality. I can't wait to have darshan of this wonderful Lord. And then when Narada saw that so much of faith that this cobbler had in his words about how Narayana was able to act, then he understood why cobbler is able to attain the spiritual world in this lifetime itself, because his faith was very strong. And then to test it further, he asked the cobbler, oh cobbler, you are just a simple cobbler, and I'm telling you something which is impossible to be done. To go and take a elephant and put that through a thread of a needle. Who can do it? How can you do it? So, and what's the point of doing it? So then he's asking, how is it that you did not doubt my words, that you are able to accept it straight away? And then the Brahmana and the cobbler was saying, oh Narada, first of all, we see this example of the Lord everywhere. What is so amazing about it? What is so amazing about putting an elephant through the eye of a needle for the Lord? The Lord is doing so many other amazing things every day. For example, he says, he's sitting under a banyan tree. So he says, look at this banyan tree. This banyan tree is so huge. Banyan tree is one of the biggest trees in the world. Big in the sense that one tree can grow in such a size that the entire forest can be just made up of that one tree if it lives long enough. So because it sends out branches which go towards the ground, and it forms another continuation of its branch. It goes on growing and growing and growing. So then he says, look at this huge tree. But do you know, Narada, that this huge tree was completely packed into a small acorn? Now, if this huge banyan tree can be fully packaged into a small acorn, which is so amazing, what is so amazing about the Lord who can thread an elephant through the eye of a needle? So then Narada Muni says, yes, you have complete faith in the Achintya Shakti of the Lord. So that is the understanding. So that's why, again, we have to have complete faith in the Lord that he can do everything. And whatever he does is perfect. Whatever is happening under his will, there is a plan behind it. Whatever Krishna is doing, there is a plan. Even for our lives, Krishna, whatever that comes our way, we must have the full faith that Krishna has a plan for me. Krishna has a plan for everything. Krishna has a plan for everyone, right? So we must not get disturbed, flabbergasted, or, all these things when we see situations happening around us. So that is the faith that we must develop. And that faith can come only when we understand how absolutely supremely powerful and inconceivably powerful the Lord is. So that is why we must hear about his creation potencies, his creation pastimes, and all his other pastimes with regards to the material energy, so that we can understand a glimpse of his actual position. So then we will not then we will have no more doubts in our heart. And then we are ready to hear the internal pastimes of the Lord, the internal Shakti pastimes of Ladini Shakti, of Krishna with the pastimes of the gopis and all that. Then we will not offend. And then when we see that, the realizations we'll get from there will be very wonderful. So this particular verse continues, Nunam Bhagavato Brahman Harir Adbhuta Karmanah Durvibhavyam Ivabhati Kavibhischapi Chestitam. Because even great endeavors by many learned scholars have still proved insufficient for understanding them. So that's the point, right? We are continuing from the previous verse, the same verse actually. O learned Brahmana, the transcendental activities of the Supreme Lord, who is amazing, are all amazing, and they appear inconceivable. It's difficult to understand by it's difficult for people to understand because even great endeavors by many learned scholars, even mundane scholars who have learned so much, they have still proved insufficient. Even for them to understand the glory of the Lord is not easy. And the same thing is described by Kunti Maharani also in the first canto. We heard Kunti Maharani's prayers, how she is glorifying. He says, great munis and sages fail to completely understand you, who are so wonderful and so great. How else can people, she's taking a very humble position. How is it then like a mere woman like me, how am I to understand you when even great munis and philosophers cannot understand you? So, but she is putting herself in a very humble position, but she forgets that she can understand the Lord because she is a devotee of the Lord, right? So that is the advantage. A devotee can understand the Lord. Great philosophers and munis cannot understand the Lord because the devotee is always subservient. He's always taking a humble servitude position in front of the Lord, never to challenge. So then the next verse, Parikshit Maharaj continues. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is one, Ekaha, whether he alone acts with the modes of Prakriti. So the Lord Krishna, the ultimate will behind creation is only one, coming from Krishna. But he uses many agencies in order to run the machinery of material creation, right? So we've heard about this in different parts. So the original agency is he glances upon the Lord Mahavishnu. We know that Krishna, for the purpose of creation, while he is lying, what happens is in the spiritual world, for the purpose of creation, he expands himself as Mahavishnu, or also known as Karano Dakashayi Vishnu. Because this Mahavishnu, from the pores of his body, water comes out, and this water creates an ocean which is called Karana Ocean, the ocean of creation. And lying down in this way, he glances at one corner of the spiritual world. So in the spiritual world is unlimited. At one corner of the spiritual world, he glances at that corner. And at that corner, there is the shadowy Shakti of the Lord. The Lord's Shakti, the shadow of the Lord's Shakti, the Bahiranga Shakti, which is the Maya Shakti, that is that is basically the material creation. So he glances at the material creation. Originally, the material creation is one single dense object. It's like I wouldn't say an object, but it's just one thing. It's called the Pradhan. So the Pradhan is like it's like the how to say, it's like the origin of all matter. You know, matter comes from one origin. So everything, if let's say we take fire, earth, water, air, all the elements in the universe, if we compress the entire universe into one single point, all combined together, all merged and dissolved together, that is called Pradhan, right? So that Pradhan, the Lord glances at that Pradhan, which is in one corner in the world, in the spiritual world. He glances at that Pradhan, and that Pradhan becomes agitated. So that glance of the Lord, because Pradhan is basically Maya Shakti of the Lord, which is not yet activated. It is in an inactivated form. So the Maya Shakti of the Lord, which is not yet activated. So when the Lord glances of it, like how we want to on something, like when we look at our handphone, sometimes, there's something called facial recognition. So when we simply by looking at the handphone will on itself because it recognizes our face. So that same technology the Lord is using. So simply by glancing at Pradhan, the Pradhan starts to become activated, starts to get energized. It becomes, initially it was inert, then it becomes energetic, right? So Pradhan, or the material energy in the initial stage, is Durga Devi, of course. Material energy is Durga Devi. But the Lord doesn't directly associate with Durga Devi because the Lord is spiritual and Durga Devi is material. So she doesn't directly, of course, ultimately, Durga Devi is also spiritual because she is also part of the energy of the Lord. But because she is the shadowy Shakti, so we differentiate material and spiritual natures. So that which is shadow, we call material, and that which is not shadow, which we call spiritual, right? So, but ultimately, it is all coming from the Lord. So you can say ultimately, it is all spiritual. But just for the sake of category, we want to separate shadow and matter directly. So in that way, we want to separate lah. So the Lord doesn't directly associate with his material energy. So what he does, that glance which he gives, that glance is Lord Vishnu transformed with association of material energy. So that transformation of Lord Vishnu by associating with material energy is Shiva. So that's why there is a nice verse in the Brahma Samhita. An example is given in the Brahma Samhita. Lord Brahma prays, Shiram yata dadivikara visesha yogat sanjayate nahi tata pratigasti hetuho yah shambhutam api tata samupaiti karyat govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. So he says, just like how milk is transformed into yogurt by the activity of including a culture, so in the same way, Lord Vishnu transforms into Shiva when material nature is added. So just like milk is like Lord Vishnu, and the culture which you add into milk is Durga Devi, right? Material creation, material nature. So by mixing with the modes of material nature, milk is transformed into yogurt, and yogurt is Lord Shiva. So Lord Shiva is but a transformation of Lord Vishnu. So Lord Shiva comes from Lord Vishnu. So in many ways, you can say Lord Shiva is non-different than Vishnu. But there is still a difference, right? Because yogurt is yogurt, milk is milk. Milk can become yogurt, but yogurt can never become milk, right? So Lord Vishnu can become Lord Shiva, but Lord Shiva can never become Lord Vishnu. So that is the theory, that is the understanding behind this. So the glance of Lord Mahavishnu upon material nature, that glance is Lord Shiva. And in this way, Lord Shiva associates with Maya Shakti, and this is represented by the linga. So the linga is basically representing the male organ of Lord Shiva with the female organ of Maya Devi or Durga Devi. So that union of Lord Shiva and and Durga Devi is represented in the form of linga. And human beings worship this linga because we owe Lord Shiva and Durga Devi our material bodies. Because of this union, Lord Shiva is our secondary father, Durga Devi is our secondary mother. Because why secondary? Because they are providing us our false ego, our ahankara. They are providing us our material bodies, our gross and subtle material bodies. So in this way, we take birth within the womb of Durga Devi. which is material nature. And we are given, and the father and the one who inseminates Durga Devi is the glance of Mahavishnu. And that glance of Mahavishnu takes the form of Lord Shiva. Okay, I hope that is clear. It's a very complex analogy, I understand. But I've mentioned this once or twice during the first canto, but we are repeating this again. So as the more we hear, the more it will enter into our mind. Any doubts? Always happy to answer later. So this material nature, right, is made up of different elements. We know the Panchabhutas, earth, water, fire, air, ether, right? So all of these Panchabhutas, this is the gross Panchabhuta. And in order to, what happens is these Panchabhutas will transform into material sense objects and also our material senses. So, for example, we have our mouth, which we can taste, our nose, which we can smell, and so forth, right? So, what's happening is in this creation, material creation, the material creation is made up of elements. These elements are the five Panchabhutas, right? That's five elements, plus the sense objects. So, we have the sense objects, which is form, sound, smell, taste, and touch. This is called the tanmatras, the pancha tanmatras. Tanmatras means sense objects. So we human beings are born into this material creation, but we are spirit soul. In order for us to enjoy the sense objects created within the material creation, our spiritual body must be injected into a material body. Then only the material body, by controlling the material body, we can experience the material sense objects. Because spirit cannot mix with matter. So pure spirit cannot directly enjoy material sense objects. So our spirit, we are the Atma, we need to enter into a material body, and then we can enjoy the sense objects. So our material body is made up of all of these: earth, water, fire, air, ether, the pancha bhutas, and then the panchindriyas, and the karmindriyas. So the jnana indriya is the objects, the senses which can get knowledge. So the knowledge acquiring senses are called jnanendriyas, which is the nose, the tongue, the skin, the eyes. All of these gets information. And then we have also the karmendriyas. Karmendriyas are the senses which do work. What do we do with this knowledge? What do we do with the knowledge? We can connect that to these other senses, which are the genitals, the anus, the legs, the hands, and the speech. So all of these are what we call karmendriyas, the mouth. So together, five elements Panchabhuta, five elements Karmendriyas, five elements which is the Jnanendriyas. So 5 plus 5 plus 5. So that gives us 15. So 15 elements which make up our body, our gross body. This is just our gross body. We also have our subtle body. Our subtle body, which is made up of three things. We have our false ego, ahamkara. We have our intelligence, right? And we have our intelligence is buddhi, and we have our mind, which is manas. So these are our subtle body. So together with our subtle body and together with our gross body, all together makes up 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 3. So that is 18 elements altogether. Okay, so 18 elements, and with these 18 elements, we interact with these 5 sense objects, the tanmatras. So 18 plus 5, that is 23. So 23 elements altogether within this material creation, right? So 16 of it, which is coming from the body. So mind, intelligence, and ego, that's the plus 3 subtle elements, right? And then in this way we interact. So going back to our glance of Mahavishnu, so going back to our example of the acorn, you know, from the acorn, what comes from the acorn? In order for the acorn to sprout, what needs to be done? Right conditions need to be there, right? The acorn has to have the right conditions. What are the right conditions? There must be sunlight, there must be rain. So water and sunlight together, this creates the right conditions for the acorn. So, and when that happens, when the right conditions occur, then the acorn will sprout. A sapling will come out from the acorn. And initially it is just what you see, you just see leaves and branch, that's it. But this leaf and branch sapling will differentiate and differentiate and differentiate as it grows until it becomes a complete banyan tree, which is so complex with so many things. It has twigs, it has branches, it has acorns, it has fruits, it has flowers, it has leaves, it has roots, different aspects and different cells within this tree. So in the same way, when Mahavishnu glances at the Pradhan is the unmanifested, undifferentiated form of material energy, which is inert, which is not active. That is the acorn. That is the Maya Shakti in the inert, inactive Maya Durga Shakti, which is sleeping. Durga Devi when she is sleeping. Okay, that's Pradhan. And when Lord Vishnu glances at Durga Devi, what happens? The right conditions happens. The sunlight and the rain is like how the sunlight and the rain acts on the acorn. So the glance of Mahavishnu, which is in the form of Lord Shiva, when Lord Shiva touches Durga Devi and embraces Durga Devi awakens. And the combination of that union produces sapling, right? So Prakriti. So when Pradhan is activated by the energy of the glance of Mahavishnu, it is no longer called Pradhan, it is called Prakriti. So when Durga Devi is awake, that is called Prakriti. She is now known as Prakriti. Prakriti means energy of the Lord. So the difference between Pradhan and Prakriti, Pradhan is unmanifested, Prakriti is manifested now. It is now awake, not sleeping, right? But Prakriti is still undifferentiated. Everything is not created yet. So it is still, everything is still within the acorn, not yet differentiated. So then what happens? The union between Lord Shiva and Durga, the Prakriti sprouts, right? And when that happens, it's called Mahatattva, when differentiating starts to happen. So what's Mahatattva? Mahatattva is also Prakriti, but it is now undifferentiated already. Prakriti is undifferentiated, Mahatattva is differentiated. How is it differentiated? From just single energy, the energy differentiates itself into the different elements. Just now I was telling you about the elements, the Panchabhuta, the 5 plus 5 Jnanindriyas, plus 5 Karmindriyas, 15 already, plus 3, which is the mind, intelligence, and ego. So that is 18 already, right? And then plus the Tan Matras, which are the 5 sense objects, which is 23. And then 23 plus Mahatattva, 24, plus Prakriti, 25, plus Pradhan, 26. So the total sum of material creation of elements is 26. So that is the total element of material creation. Okay, so in this way, the universe is created, the complete differentiated universe with all the different planets, all the different systems, just like how the banyan tree has completely differentiated itself. The branches on top of the banyan tree represents the 7 planetary systems, the higher planetary systems. The roots of the tree going down represents the lower planetary systems. So in this way, it is differentiated, right? So I hope that makes sense. All right, so actually the scientists have also got it to some extent. But what do the scientists say? The scientists say that initially boom, there is a big bang, like this. So the big bang, what happened? Initially, they say there's nothing, and then there is a beginning, and then there is the universe. So that's Big Bang Theory explained in a nutshell, right? So, and we also agree with them, right? So what we say initially there was Pradhan, and then Mahatattva, sorry, Pradhan and then Prakriti. There was a beginning, and then Mahatattva, which is the universe. So initially unmanifested, undifferentiated. Then there's a beginning, Prakriti, manifested but undifferentiated. Then finally universe, manifested and fully differentiated and continuing to be differentiated. But what the scientists cannot, they can only explain this much. They see some evidence in the physics of the universe, but they cannot tell you what or who caused the Big Bang or why the Big Bang happened. So they don't know that. But we can answer because the Vedic scripture tells, right? So what caused the Big Bang? Mahavishnu glancing at Pradhan. So who is Mahavishnu and what is the glance of Mahavishnu, which is in the form of Lord Shiva, associating with Durga, and together they form Prakriti. Prakriti is awakened. Durga is awakened. So beginning is there. And then differentiation. The universe expands. So many differentiation is there. So many universes, stars, galaxies. Why it was created, the scientists don't know. But we know because the Lord wants to create this place for us to, for the wayward souls to come to the material creation. So that's the reason, right? For us to experience our desires. So therefore, famous physicist Alan Guth, right? He says, Big Bang Theory says nothing about what banged, why it banged, or what happened before it banged. So that is to that extent only science can bring us, right? Because science, the experience is limited. It does not know anything beyond its experience, which is simply gross matter. So coming back, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is one. He is Ekaha. Whether he alone acts with the modes of Prakriti or simultaneously expands in many incarnations or forms or incarnates to direct the modes of nature. So the Lord also takes further incarnation. So in material creation, he doesn't just leave the material creation in that way. He takes active roles. So he incarnates to the material creation. I've already mentioned he comes as Lord Shiva, right? So Lord Shiva is, because he is no longer Vishnu, he is associating with material nature. So therefore he is no longer, although he's an incarnation, but he's not an incarnation. He is basically a differentiation of Lord Vishnu. So he's a special category. He's not Vishnu Tattva. He is not Shakti Tattva also. He is neither Jiva Tattva. So he is a very special position called Shiva Tattva. So it's a very unique position. Only Shiva Tattva. So and Shiva Tattva, you can also say that he is an incarnation as because he incarnates as Shiva to control the mode of ignorance. So Lord Shiva is the person who controls the mode of ignorance because he's the one who gives us our identity in the material creation. Because we forget that we are the soul and Maya makes us forget. But if we forget something, what is to replace that memory? Something else is replacing that memory. That something else is our ego, ahankara. And that ahankara or ego comes from Lord Shiva. We all get something from our father and our mother, right? So some people will say, oh, we got our mother's eyes or our father's nose, or and we also got our mother's smile or our father's temper or our mother's friendly nature. So like that, so in the same way we get the ego from Lord Shiva, and we get our forgetfulness, a modes of goodness, passion and ignorance from our mother Durga Devi. That is, while we are conditioned. So that is how it works, right? So the Lord comes, and sometimes when there is no jiva to take up the position of Brahma, Lord Vishnu, he himself incarnates as Lord Brahma sometimes in some universes. Not in our universe. In our universe, there is a jiva. Lord Brahma is there in the form from jiva. But still, they are still considered as Sakyavish. Lord Brahma is so powerful, right? So he has two categories. He is sometimes known as Sakyavish because he's a jiva who's empowered by the Lord. But at the same time, he can also incarnate as Brahma. So therefore, he's known as Purusha avatar. This category of avatars, as Vishnu, Brahma, and Shiva, they control the three modes of nature: mode of goodness by Lord Vishnu, mode of passion by Lord Brahma, and mode of ignorance by Lord Shiva. So they are therefore called the Guna avatars. The Guna avatars, not Purusha. Sorry, just now I said Purusha. I meant Guna avatars. All right. So then Parikshit Maharaj puts his final statement. He says, kindly clear up all these doubtful inquiries, because you are not only Sabda Brahmani, that means you are not only vastly learned in Vedic literature and self-realized on top of that in transcendence. So one factor is vastly learned in Vedic literature. Second is self-realized in transcendence. So please, you are very qualified. You are very qualified to answer all my inquiries because of these two reasons. But not only because of these two reasons, because you are not only qualified Vedic literatures, self-transcendence, but also because you are a great devotee of the Lord and are therefore as good as Bhagavan. So this is the most important qualification, right? And because of this, one can, so we should ideally hear from such people, such personalities, to the best of what we get, right? So, but even though the first two categories are not there, the most important category is the last category. That's why Parikshit Maharaj says, not only because of these two reasons, which are minor reasons, the main reason is that you are a great devotee of the Lord and therefore as good as Bhagavan. Hmm. So Prabhupada explains, when one is able to be engaged in the devotional service of the Lord, then only one can know the true nature of the Lord. So again, he is reinforcing this point over here that one has to be a devotee. If you read the Bhagavad Gita also, Prabhupada explains in the introduction, if we want to get maximum benefit from the Bhagavad Gita, we must at least theoretically accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Even if we don't believe, but theoretically accept it lah, in good faith and study the Bhagavad Gita in that mood, without a challenging mood, right? Then it will give us great benefit. Then it will quickly bring us to the platform of pure devotional service. But if we approach it in a very challenging mood, or in a mood like, in a doubtful mood, or doubting Thomas, so in that kind of a mood, then it is not going to take a very quick time. It will be very slow, because doubts are the enemy of faith. So long as doubts are there, right, the faith is always going to be disturbed. It's like a weed. It's like a pest which is always disturbing the growth of the devotional creeper. Right? So one must first of all surrender to the Lord, at least accept the Lord, become a devotee. Manmana bhava mat bhakto mat yaji mam namaskuru. Right? Become a devotee. Remember me. Think of me in your activities. Offer your obeisances to me. Worship me. Right? And how does Krishna recognize a devotee? Right? Then he says there, Machita Madgata Prana, always thinking of me, always remembering me. Bodhayantas Parasparam, Kathayantas Chamam Nitya, always talking about me, uh, enlightening each other, having this kind of discussion, Katha, meeting other devotees and discussing about Krishna. So these are what the activities of a devotee are. So that's how we can recognize devotees, right? So of course there are different levels of devotees. There are 3 levels of devotees. So, but when we, as far as possible, we should try to hear from the topmost devotees if we have the opportunity, right? So that is the best. I'm not a topmost devotee, I'll tell you right now itself. But I am trying to follow in the instruction of topmost devotees, and I am trying to present the conclusions of such great personalities like Srila Prabhupada, Baladev Vidyabhushan, Jiva Goswami, Vishwanath Chakravarti. So all of these people's purports and translations for the Srimad Bhagavatam. So delivering them as a postman, Prabhupada gives the assurance that the potency will be there. So I'm trying to do that. So hopefully my endeavor is blessed. All right, so we can end here for today. This is the last part of Parikshit Maharaj putting his inquiries to Sukadev Goswami. In the next verse, Sukadev Goswami will begin to answer Srila Parikshit Maharaj. So with that, let us try to digest all the information that we have heard today by chanting Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So Hare Krishna devotees, any questions, any clarifications you'd like to ask?
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu.
Parsi Maharaj is so great personality, got so many questions. And I'm surprised we don't have any question.
It's okay.
Anyway, well explained, Prabhu. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Okay, very, very nice. Thank you. I hope that today's topic is a bit technical.
Yeah. Actually, it's very technical. True.
Mm. But I hope I made it clear with some analogies. So with the examples, so it will help us to understand better. So first time we hear, we may not get it. So second time, third time, fourth time. So that's why we must Nitya Bhagavatam Sevaya. Continue to always hear Srimad Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, and that will help us. Each time we hear, it will the holes in our mind will fill up little by little by little. Now there's a lot of holes in our mind. So the more we hear, some part of Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam will get stuck in the hole. So the holes get plugged up. And then the more we hear, the more holes get plugged up. So finally, all the holes will get plugged up. And then our brain will be able to retain by the mercy of Guru and Krishna.
But Prabhu,
Yeah.
one question, Prabhu.
Mm.
Whenever we read Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita or other books,
Mm.
they always refer, in Srimad Bhagavatam, they say refer Bhagavad Gita, sloka so and so. Or when you read Srimad Bhagavad Gita, they say refer Srimad Bhagavatam, quote, blah, blah, blah.
Mm.
Why is that been repeated twice?
No, this is the purport. You're talking about the purport, right? So it's not in the text.
Yes.
So the purport is given by the acharyas. So the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam is intimately related. They are both Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam. So Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam. One has Bhagavat in front, one has Bhagavat at the end. So Bhagavad Gita is the beginning and Srimad Bhagavatam is the end. So together they form the Bhagavat. They are both Bhagavan. So it's like, whenever we go to higher, when we are in school, when we are studying something higher in secondary, we also sometimes refer back to the primary, right? Like certain basic operations, certain basic knowledge we are expected to know. So sometimes the teacher will refer back to this. Okay, remember in Form 1 you studied this, but now we are now studying the same thing in a deeper manner. So therefore it's always interrelated, and to double confirm the meanings, we like to quote both literatures together like this. So it gives double power. So that's the understanding, Prabhu.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you.
Okay, Prabhu. Any other questions from anybody?
Hare Krishna, Babu.
Hare Krishna. Yes, Prabhu.
So, I'd like to ask when we say Srimad Bhagavatam,
Hmm.
because when it was written by Dev, and also what we read now,
Hmm.
some of it had a design. So when the actual Srimad Bhagavatam started, where it starts from?
Well, the whole thing is Srimad Bhagavatam because actually Sukadev Goswami begins speaking in Canto 2. So, but Srimad Bhagavatam becomes sweeter and sweeter when recited. The original Srimad Bhagavatam was spoken by Lord Krishna to Lord Brahma, and it was described that only 4 verses in the original Srimad Bhagavatam. But then it became sweeter when Lord Brahma starts to narrate it to the Devatas. So in the heavenly planets, it is described that Srimad Bhagavatam has many, many cantos. So what we have on earth is only 12 cantos, but in the heavenly planets, it's many more cantos. So it becomes sweeter, right, when it is passed through the mouth of Lord Brahma. And Lord Brahma spoke it to Narada. So when Narada speaks Srimad Bhagavatam, it becomes even sweeter, and when Narada spoke it to Vyasadev, it became even sweeter. And when Vyasadev spoke it to Sukadev Goswami, it became most sweetest. Because Sukadev Goswami is not an ordinary soul, he came from Goloka Vrindavan. So he's the only one who came from Goloka Vrindavan. And when this information passed through Sukadev Goswami's mouth, it became like honey, amrita. So Sukad Mukhat Amrita Dravya Samyutam. So it's described that by coming from the mouth of Sukadev, it became so easily digestible and palatable that it's easy to, just consume it just like that. And then this Srimad Bhagavatam spoken by Sukadev Goswami was also repeated by Saunaka Muni to, Suta Goswami to the Saunaka Rishis in the Naimisaranya forest. So it is also Srimad Bhagavatam. So the first canto has a lot of aspects which talks about the pastimes of the Lord, which brings the Srimad Bhagavatam into context. It glorifies the speaker of Srimad Bhagavatam, Sukadev Goswami. It glorifies Parikshit Maharaj. It explains how the situation came about. It begins by the glorification of Krishna. It begins by the history of how Vyasadev and started writing the Srimad Bhagavatam. So all this is in the first canto, which is also Srimad Bhagavatam. So therefore, Srimad Bhagavatam is divided into all these cantos. But strictly speaking, you could say that second canto onwards is Sukadev Goswami's narration, but the first canto is also equally potent. And Prabhupada stressed very much that the first 2 cantos are the lotus feet of Lord Krishna of Srimad Bhagavatam. So we must take full shelter of the lotus feet of of Lord Krishna by fully studying the first 2 cantos. Hope that answers the question, Prabhu.
So good. Thank you very much.
Okay. Then there's one question also by Ravinder Prabhu. So in the chat, are there any links to enroll in courses on Vedanta to learn on a deeper level? Also, do you have a PhD in this area? No, my PhD is in engineering, material things. But we have courses, the Mayapur Higher Institute of Learning, the Vrindavan Higher Institute of Learning, we have the Govardhan Eco Village Institute of Learning. Like that, we have many other places, Vachaspati. So like that, we have several institutes within ISKCON, which is giving courses on Srimad Bhagavatam. So we have Bhakti Vaibhava and Bhakti Vedanta. So Bhakti Vaibhava is the study of the first 6 cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam, and Bhakti Vedanta is the study of the canto 7 to canto 12. So these courses are quite long. They can take up to, if you go there personally and study, it takes about 3 to 6 months, I think. And there's exam and all that. So yeah, this is something which we can do. There are some online courses also, which we can take. So yeah, these courses are there definitely, Prabhu. So Srila Prabhupada describes the study of Bhagavad Gita to be like the degree level, and the study of or the preliminary of degree, like the foundation. When we do degree, we do a foundation first, like A levels and whatever. So Bhagavad Gita is the foundation, Srimad Bhagavatam is the degree, and Chaitanya Charitamrita is the postgraduate study. But even though Chaitanya Charitamrita is postgraduate study, some acharyas have the opinion we should first hear Chaitanya Charitamrita, because there are so much of examples of realistic examples of devotees' behavior. So we can learn a lot about Vaishnava Achar, how to behave as a devotee, and it's very, very sweet. And the tattva is also there, but it could be a little heavy in some aspects. So, but this is generally the idea. So, if you have taken Bhakti Shastri, then you can take Bhakti Vaibhava. Then after Bhakti Vaibhava, you can proceed to Bhakti Vedanta. So now we have many people doing this, especially if you are retired or if you have the time, then certainly please take it up. It's very, very wonderful. I am doing Bhakti Vaibhava pathway, but even Bhakti Vaibhava, Bhakti Vedanta, you have discussions, you have to study on your own, and the classes are, they don't go verse by verse like what we are doing. We are trying to relish the Srimad Bhagavatam, so we are trying to go as deep as possible in the Srimad Bhagavatam. But in Bhakti Vedanta, they don't have that much of time, so they go a little faster. So, within one session, they will cover one entire chapter, maybe, right? So, another session, another chapter. So, it's a little faster. So, you're expected to do some self study. So, but that is good because you're also, you're working on your own. But if we are just trying to relish Srimad Bhagavatam on a weekly basis, right? By right, it should be a daily basis. But then that's the idea that I'm trying to do, that by doing this I feel I get so much of benefit. I'm going through them in this way. It's really, really wonderful, and I hope it's benefiting others as well. Right, so I have no qualifications other than simply that I've got some instructions by senior devotees, by my Guru Maharaj, to do this. Otherwise I've got no other qualifications. Hare Krishna. I hope that answers your questions, Prabhu. Any other questions? Right. So if there's nothing further, then we can stop here. Thank you so much for your time and for joining me here as well. So we'll see you again the next time. Vanchakalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhibhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Tomorrow is Ekadasi, so maybe we can continue reading on our own. Right. I'll see you all then. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. Hare Bol.
Prabhu, a nice class.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.